and whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am.
Hello there, beloved Ascension pioneers, and welcome to another video with me today. This video is a composition of so many things. It's a free course, it's a light activation, and yet it's also at the deepest level, at its core, an invitation to embody a deeper level of the essence self and how to work on the essence level for all those of you who are already on your journey of personal self-mastery. I know that a lot of people think that the road of self-mastery is in itself a final destination, so reaching a self-realization of our inner mastery, and that's where our journey ends. Well, to tell you in the simplest form, a personal self-mastery has in its composition within the whole, within the universal scheme of things, it doesn't have any purpose unless it's utilized for something that we call the greater good. So reaching a level of personal self-mastery is not yet the final destination. And we're going to talk about how to work within the domain of becoming a master of self at the core essence level. For those of you who are interested or perhaps thinking about taking some of my courses, I've created and developed many levels, and the first level are the self-mastery courses, and then I have a more advanced multidimensional mastery, because it really depends on where your soul is currently and what you are particularly experiencing, which your soul will lead you through inner resonance. Sometimes people ask me what to choose. I don't know, because everyone has to tune into their own soul where they're currently at. And this is usually a pull towards something that's interesting to you in the moment, something that you feel this is a calling in the moment. And sometimes people think it's a linear journey, so they're going to make a mistake by doing something and not, like doing something else. So sometimes the mind sabotages because we think we have to go a certain way, and yet it's a spiraling journey. Within each choice is simply a choice. There is no wrong, or perfect choice. So I want to also say that beyond reaching this personal level of mastery, and my courses were designed in this way, that the first 7 level are the sort of initiations that take us to purify and enrich the body, mind, and soul complex, so that we can then open up to greater soul potentialities and realities that exist. So the first 7 courses are also available as a package, and then from then onwards, the mastery starts to get more and more deep and in advance. So I'm now at the stage of preparing the Universal Cosmic Union and Ascension course, which is the last 12th foundational level of reaching a universal level of becoming a self-born being, and more will be discussed there. And as a part of this course, I want to remind you of the previous video, which was about the merging of our galactic heritage, so our galactic roots and our earth roots, in order to activate the galactic seed which lives within us, so that it can become an embodiment of our human mastery as becoming the galactic humans, which is the carrying of the galactic potential in our current form, which was always the main design. I want to remind you that this video is a continuation of that, which is more of an emphasis on how to do this work. The first one was an overview of why we're actually, involved in this and how this pertains to our current ascendant experience. And then this video in particular is more about the essence level work. So the main components of what we actually need to do to welcome in this new level of functioning by activating the compassionate Christos for neutralizing energies at the essence level. Okay, so one more thing I need to add, and this will also be a part of my Universal Cosmic Union and Ascension course, which is the 12th foundational level of the, completeness of mastery, so that you can, become an embodiment of that service when you're ready, when your soul simply is organically ready. And there's nothing to do in particular to force this process along. Sometimes people say, what can I do to speed up the process? This is not about speeding up anything. This is about allowing what is, so that this natural evolution of your soul can be attained at the highest level when you simply accept through life force embodiment that which needs to be a part of each cycle, and then to truly integrate that as an intrinsic experience instead of seeking it somehow as outside of you. Okay, so At the core level of the previous video, which is the understanding of our galactic roots, lies the theory in many ways. It's not just a theory, it's a creation story and myth, and it's actually creation truth of seeding life in this universe and beyond. And there's many presentations about this, of how different star-seeded beings or different star archetypes or different extraterrestrial essences as beings are seeding life in different planetary systems than their own. But I haven't yet discovered nowhere in any of these the actual main explanation of why this is so. And this is gonna be a part of my last course, a self-mastery journey, for those of you who feel ready in a way to complete this journey of awakening to the universal wisdom, which sees all these archetypes and templates truly as one, so that you're ready and prepared for what's to come next as in your implemented service within that awareness. So in a way, life itself is in a constant evolutionary mode, but none of us ask, the question, okay, why? Okay, why were we seeded? Why did these extraterrestrial beings come and they seeded us? And the moment when you understand this, when you get this formula, when this revelation comes to you as in how important life is, and the continuation of life and the integration of polarities to fulfill the self-mastery through self-actualization within yourself, so that the whole can do so, and we can do that at the galactic level, you will finally have that reverence and respect for inner work. Because you will understand that the work you do is the work that the whole does. And everything you've done to put into the self-realization process, not in a way that it's all about you now, but in a way from this perspective of universal wisdom, how can you serve the whole, then you will see that you will get very much engaged in this process, because you'll be eager to do the work, because you'll understand why these things are happening, why life is continuously being seeded in all these planetary systems. And you will see why this is truly so important. And that's the reason why I created the previous video on the galactic roots and earth roots as one, because many people are missing the point. So they're focusing so much on their stellar roots, but they don't want to bring this wisdom here. They don't want to integrate themselves on this current planetary structure on Earth. They don't ever want to fully become the part of a living grid of the system, the crystalline grid of Gaia, and to assist this process. But let me tell you this, we will continue to come here until even this part of creation does its work. And the moment you get that, you get this compassionate formula for understanding why you are here, why we are in a way all here, except we are all at different evolutionary stages and rates. But as a part of this picture, I also today want to say, what is the meaning of volunteer souls? And as you know, I am going to eventually put out a book, which is a part of the overall grand design, which will have 3 sections. And the first one will be about the mission of volunteer souls. And I want to give you a little deeper explanation, because a lot of people are still asking me, okay, you talk about volunteer souls, but at the core, what is this? And I've explained to you before that these are the individuals that have, in a way, completed their mastery process and use the utilization of their own personal mastery and harnessing and creating energies for the advancement of the whole. So these are kind of like, say it in plain terms, souls that have got it. They've realized why this is happening. They realize their own, kind of like their own fragment within the whole, by fulfilling the completion process, moving beyond soul fragmentation and truly coming into the unification that then helps to spread the seeds of that unity and union all throughout these spaces that perhaps have not yet completed this. So imagine there's this whole template within unification that's kind of like beaming with life here in our galaxy. And imagine incoming energies that have already gotten that, and they're coming in as a stream of energies to help and to assist those that perhaps have not yet fully remembered. Even when we talk about being informed here on Earth, what this is about, there was a lot of channeling, and it began in a very massive way in the New Age movement in the 80s. And there was a lot of extraterrestrial energy starting to channel on this planet at that time, and you can still see many channelers. But volunteer souls per se, they're not necessarily channelers. They're not necessarily here to inform. They're not informational beacons. They are the beacons of self-integrated energy, because an integrated being has a bigger impact on the whole than a non-yet integrated being has. That's what it's about. So in a lot of cases, when we talk about volunteer souls, and people would try to stamp the scenarios of our living challenges to every single individual on the planet, that it's the same, that's not really true. Because you say someone has challenges, right? And it needs opposing energies, or it has sometimes energies that are very dysfunctional coming at them, coming to them. And people would say, well, this is happening to you because it's simply your mirror and you have this within you. Not necessarily. When it comes to the case of these pure souls that I call, and many times even elsewhere they're being called volunteer souls, because they have voluntarily set aside their own, kind of like things they were, the levels they were enmeshed with, and said, well, we're actually not separate from that which we already achieved, while moving somewhere that has not yet been achieved. So in that kind of way. So imagine it that when you try to stamp something as a pattern that is true and overall for everyone, to a being that has transgressed that, in a way has transcended that, you're really missing the point. So there's still a lot of this black and white, negative versus positive. It's just how it is, and people lack knowledge of the whole process, and seeing that souls are at different levels and different reasons for being here on this planet at this time. So people kind of miss the point because they want to simply put those stamps on everyone. When a volunteer soul meets up a challenging energy, and this will be the topic of today's video for everyone, not just for volunteer souls, but in particular, why they're being here is, we're going to talk about at the end, of becoming as an integrated being deeply magnetic, which means that because they're integrated within their wholeness already, they're going to attract energies to themselves which are yet at this point perhaps incapable of doing this. They're incapable of moving beyond duality and coming into unity. So they're being used as bridges, as vessels for these duality imprinted energies. So they can work at the essence level, and through this pure allowance, kind of allow these energies to become what they truly were at their core. Because in the last video I've spoken to you about, there simply is no duality, there's no oppositions. And I remember we even read this in one of the books. I don't know, maybe it was Osho or who was it, but it was clearly stated, in truth, there's no opposites. On earth we created them, but it was created through our experience. It isn't the truth, at the core level. So when we talk about these individuals and people say, well, you're having these issues, or these people come to you because they're your mirrors, for volunteer souls, that's not, always the case, because there's a part of your journey that you need to walk through when you still need to integrate also in the physical on earth. Everyone has to do that, including volunteer souls. We take on imprints, and through these imprints we're allowing ourselves to walk this earthly experience by the integration of polarity. But because we're already integrated as a being, for us it's much easier to do that within ourself, which is, we're going to talk about the different stages: the self, the other, and then the synthesis of all in union. So there's again the presence of triangulation here. And because this is completed, we're much faster at this, and we're getting it faster. So people would say, well, how are you so fast, so developed? It's because as a being, this exists within us, this neutral balance polarity. But when we come here, we need to go through this process of doing the work first within it, within our core, and then we need to somehow have extreme conditions oftentimes to learn how to deal with energies. And if you want to learn more about this work, you can also get my audio book. It's a mini recording on the training, the cosmic training for volunteer souls, and the stages you move through in order to eventually become a universal guide, and train on further levels of creation. So again, I want to emphasize that the reason why these beings came here is because someone had to do the most difficult things. And by saying difficult doesn't mean it's hard, because we all do the work we're capable of doing. And that simply meant that these beings were here to take on certain assignments that certain souls couldn't move through because they got so enmeshed in that particular duality or fragmentation of the soul. So by taking on the level of this work, which is not truly hard, because the moment you say, well, this is hard, you're not yet at the level where this is organic for you. You know, it's challenging, but for you, it's not hard because you love the challenge. That's why you're here. You love the challenge. And that's why you've taken on the challenge. Remember that on the grand scheme of things, we're never given what we can handle. That means that we won't receive from spirit a certain level. You know, our dowry isn't given to us, just it's like a given. It's self-obvious. It's earned through the rites of initiation, which means we've passed those things. That's why we're receiving them. And I get really disappointed when people just put on stamps and saying, you're having this because of this and that experience. As humans, we need to stop doing that, because you, as an individual, you don't know where the other is, what their soul, level is, what their challenges are from the perspective of their mastery, what they're able to handle, what they were given as assignments. And these are sacred assignments between them and their spirit. And we need to stop doing that. That's the first message today. So you can move deeper into the Christed logos. So the Christos of that level of actualization, which actually invites you into working deeper at the essence level. Because there's so much non-allowance present in our current earth time that it's hard for, sometimes to get around, to even know what we're doing, because I've witnessed so much of this constant judging of energies that feel heavy, especially through what, in the previous video we talked about as sometimes spiritual elitism, or, the enlightened versus the unenlightened. When we look at, when you're truly an enlightened being and you're coming to, approach everything from the universal perspective, I've said to you that you don't really use those words, you don't speak in those terms, but you recognize energies as being at a certain level of density or distortion that makes it, impossible for it to really step into illumination. So in a way, the sacred assignment for you becomes as a part of allowing these energies to present themselves as they are, so that without this judgment, which already places a filter upon them, the energy can express itself in its purest form. And that's what only Christed compassion can do. So we're going to talk about what is the pure compassion versus the positivism that often is a part of the New Age thinking, which is, well, this wouldn't happen to you if you thought positive, or think positive and the situation will change. In many cases, when we do that, or when we approach things like that through non-enlightenment, which is the absolute recognition of everything as it is, the seeing of both oppositions and where they're coming from, and different angles that present themselves as points of view within a certain experience, which is, again, it's a cyclical experience. And in many cases, what this happens is it causes just more of the blockages, because in many cases, these beings who operate only through the positivism thinking, they will repress a lot of the energy that's actually present and it's going on. And I've even witnessed people saying, well, that's not mine, get away from me. I'm here to handle my own business. There's one thing to do your purpose. Yes, mission is for you and you need to stay focused at it. But the other thing is ignoring energies when they come to you, especially if you are a part of the sacred help, which is the help that is simply here because you are at the vibrational essence of the Christos, which is in many cases, it's the extraterrestrial seeding on this planet. So beings who are already at the level of this functioning, but we need to learn as physical humans how to get this across and how to reverberate this message outwards to others as well. Because this, in its plain form, is not just about thinking positive. You don't change necessarily the situation at its core. You don't necessarily shift the energy when you're just thinking positively, because in many cases, you're not addressing the feeling component that is a part of our human mastery through which we evolve as masters through feeling, which is the thymus gland, but it's also a chakric vortex, which is above our heart. And energetically, the thymus, we can call it a gland, but in many cases, we can even call it the energy center, is here to process what our heart feels. And if the heart is not sending an energy of what it feels, it can't connect with this thymus, which is a higher expression of the heart, which is where the pure compassion lies. And then it connects with the mind. The mind informs it through perceiving the situation, because if you only stay in the mind, you perceive things through assumption, right? But you don't actually process them through feeling, you don't integrate. So therefore, without the feeling center, which is your heart, as humans, we feel. We can't say, oh, I'm just thinking positive, right? Staying in the mind, and I'm going to change the situations. You can't do that, which is the mind, because you are not just your brain. Your brain is constantly sending out frequency, yes, but your heart also, because remember, when you were a fetus, they were one organ held together, and then you becoming a human born within the system of duality, there was a split. But as an ascended galactic human, you are rejoining or you're unifying these energies within your human body template once again. So that means if you are not informed through feeling and the mind, and then finding a component which will synthesize in the thymus level of processing, which enables the pure compassionate essence to move through you. And a lot of the people who are so cut off from their feeling, their thymus gland or vortex is fully inactive, or it's very tiny and it's not developed to its full capacity. And watch my video, Galactic Update, I think it was in September, when I've spoken about these levels, and I've given you some of the example from the book, We Are Becoming Galactic Humans. And I want to say that there's a huge difference between a pure compassion, which is a natural reverberation through your thymus gland. It's physical. That compassion is actually physically held. It's not your idea you have of compassion. So if it's not embodied, let's say you meet someone and you have an inbuilt projection because you read it somewhere, or you've read that you are an enlightened being if you are compassionate. And you think about compassion. I've met a lot of people who are thinking about essences, but the essence in itself is not yet embodied, so that's a whole different story. So when this pure compassion is born, it will literally change the structure of your body, and your hormonal processing will alter your body. That's why even your body will start to vibrate differently. And in the end, I've written here that an integrated being becomes highly magnetic, which is the immense attraction level, which is why energies that can't integrate come to you. And in many times, as I've said, for volunteer souls, there will be a question, why am I in this environment, or why am I with these people? They're not at my level, right, of awareness and what I perceive to be the pure reality of this pure compassion. In often cases, is because you're acting as a sacred anchor there. And it's purely important that this magnetic energy is drawing people towards you that sometimes can't help themselves, or they need something energetically from you. Again, we're not here at the crucial core level to inform. We are here to vibrationally do the work, and that will be all explained beautifully in the book that's to come eventually. But I want to say again that this pure compassion, when it's born in our body, and it's connected with the higher chakric system, that this gland simply starts to radiate. And therefore you might see someone that you might say, well, that person has a warm heart, that person feels warm. We feel as human beings. And then towards another person we might say, wow, that person really feels cold. And it's not even a judgment, it's our body feels it, because when we are aligned, specifically, we will feel a lack of that emanation, because we are so of the feeling nature, of it ourselves. So remember, pure compassion needs to be embodied, and it's only true when embodied. Now I'm going to talk about the 3 levels of mastery when we're going to start working now at this essence level work, and how you can, when you have integrated yourself, start attracting energies, and basically they will start being called into your presence to work by allowing the external energies to come into you, so that eventually you come to a point of the 3rd stage, which is synthesis, which is the inner, the outer merge as one, no more opposition. But at the 1st stage, the self-internal mastery, to master your inner world, in many cases people go through these energies that we might say, well, this is the energy of being resentful, this is the energy of being angry, this is the energy of being irritated by something, this is the energy of feeling not good and unworthy, right? This is the energy of complete lack of self-worth. This is the energy of feeling despair, all those things. So these are all components of merging, and bringing back to the core, so that you build the foundation for these energies that were so densified that eventually they moved away from the core of what they were in truth. Again, remember, there's no opposition to them. It's just such a moving out from the center that eventually these energies have forgotten what they are at the core. So this internal processing is the first requirement. You can't work and operate at the essence level if you haven't even done that. There's people who want to be somewhere, but you have to do the work first. I met a lot of people who ask me and they say, well, how can I better assist the planet? How can I better serve others? First and foremost, by bringing yourself up to this level of the inner mastery, of the inner core integration, because you can't really help in a neutralized, Christos, compassionate, pure compassion level if you haven't done this work. And I've talked about this in my previous videos many times. We're just going a little deeper in this one today. So the second part is the incoming energy of others, the external energies that we perceive when we're ourselves still in duality. We will perceive them as separate from us. So let's say there's someone attacking you, and you might say, oh, that person has issues. Please remove them from me. Remove the energies. Angels, please come and, separate me from this person. Shield me from that. If you are at the level of not yet being fully balanced within yourself, you haven't become a truly integrated being, and you still perceive those energies as oppositions because your inner energies are still in conflicting oppositions, themselves. So of course, at those times, people are more vulnerable and they need the protection, and they're invoking it and they're asking for it, which is pretty normal because they can't yet handle something that they're still processing within them. But when you start walking towards the second part of the mastery, which is mastering the external energetic responses, this will have to include you slowly opening your heart towards the other energies and towards the relationship energy, towards the nature of the universe, which is the relating component. It's the relating program. Everything relates to everything. It's how life is in continuous, because life evolves because it's always an interaction. If there was no interaction, it was all isolated, nothing would survive in truth, right? So in this second part, when you start moving, you start to, from the core, when you're feeling open, you start to expand further out. And in that time, you will use the external energies as mirrors for seeing whether you're neutral within yourself or not, which means whether that self-internal integration has been completed or not. And you do need external mirrors to show you that. And they will come, they will come as a part of your journey. And it's vitally important for you to notice, instead of saying, well, this person has issues, that person has issues, finger pointing, judging, assuming. That still means that your inner work wasn't fully complete. And that's okay, because this is not a linear way. This is not like I do this, then I move out and expand, and then I synthesize. This is, you do that on one level because it's a cycle. You come back out, you expand a little further. There's external components coming in, and you see how far out you have reached, this awareness, how further expanded you are. You use the mirrors to show you how neutral you are. They are, in a way, sometimes the testing points, the initiators. So they come and for you to see whether you have come full circle. When that is done, again, you open up a little more. You see how much more you're ready for, how much you can handle. Again, remember the basic principle. Not more than you can handle will be handed to you, will be given to you. So that's okay. So each time there will be, because of different essence levels, different energy levels, you require different mirrors. So that's why it will be in cycles. And people talk about the retrograding energies when people start coming back in their lives. But it's not people, it's energy expressions that through these people as divine reflectors, as those mirrors, are coming back and showing you. So sometimes people get scared because their remembrance of, ooh, what was my cycle with that person for the first time? Ooh, it was so hard. I don't want to invite them in. You see, basic mistake. And then we'll come in another form, through another person, another experience, until you are ready to claim it. Because it's about honing your inner state. It's about moving through what you need to require for yourself first. So that's the second part. And the third part, when you kind of like fulfill all these levels, when all of these cycles are kind of like locked in and they lock within the completion of a greater cycle, which is that of illumination, that unification point comes, because that's a part of the synthesis where there is no more you existing as me versus this person. You know, you still perceive the world, you're a human being, you have feelings, you feel others as, you know, external expressions of source, but the component unification is here. And we're going to do the work today by moving into the energy, whatever kind of energy comes into your life, claiming it. And if you want to go deeper into the pathway of becoming a divine lover, which is basically the ultimate archetype of creation, it's all the archetypes that creation is experiencing. The divine lover is all of them as one. And that doesn't mean lover, okay, we're all lovers, we all love something, right? We're all lovers, but a divine lover is an integration of all these archetypes, so that eventually there is only one synthesizing archetype of the lumen one, which is the divine lover of life. And seeing all that is external as internal, there is no more separation. So in duality, so this compassion formula that we use for that, right? When we're moving beyond the opposition through duality, why is this so hard for so many people? Why is it so hard for them to accept people as energies, to accept that these energies are coming because there's something vital there as a component for their integration, as a message of how to integrate? And a lot of times, why is this hard for them? Because they still have the judgment factor that immediately puts a stamp, again, puts a marker on that energy, as, you know, through the mind perception. If you're operating through the compassion, you know, you working through the synthesized perspective, you will feel beyond what is just presented to you in the physical. So the energy often comes masked, right? We might say, well, we were deceived, or that was the energy of deception. Not really. But we ourselves can deceive ourselves because we are still functioning within certain filters. So we can recognize the energy through our compassionate core and what is truly behind the nature, why something's coming at us. Why is it so eagerly wanting to be a part of our now? What message does it have for us? Because maybe it wants for us to be the lighthouse so that the energy can come back into union. And as volunteer souls, that's the work we do. But why is this so hard for people who still hold duality within themselves, and why they can't function from the core level? Is because in many cases, imagine there's something coming towards you and you have a judgment filter. In many cases, people perceive that energy as foreign, sometimes as even yucky. Sometimes they say, well, that energy is not in resonance. And perhaps, yes, it's not. But remember, at the core lies only love. And as a divine lover, you're able to recognize that. You're able to witness what's behind the scene, because you're unmasking that energy and revealing its true potential as through what it is at the core. And always asking, why? Why is this energy here in my life? And we're going to do that in the second part. But I want to remind you that for the majority of humans on earth, this is so hard because they perceive when that energy will come at them, they will have to absorb it and it will become an influence in their own life. So they rather just push it away or ignore it or pretend it's not there. And sometimes people who are starting to awaken at the first levels, they say, well, I'm just going to think positive and I'm going to align with the positive people, positive things. Perhaps you will only experience one part of creation then, but you will not walk the path of a divine lover, because a divine lover does not separate. There is no more positive, negative when you become a divine lover of life. Let me tell you that, you know. So this is hard to perceive for people who are functioning at, you know, at the level of their own duality. They're carrying perhaps heavy burdens themselves. So when people are coming at them and they have their own issues, and people say, well, that's your drama, it's not my drama, get away with that, I'm not responsible for it. You know, at the core of the experience, everyone is right. So the one coming with the drama, saying something, the other one experiencing that as an external drama, everyone is right because everyone is holding their own perception. But this, working through the Christos for neutralizing at the essence level, is beyond the right and wrong, or beyond the perceptions being right, but it's simply about perceptions being held at the level of illumination. So can you transcend that, even your perception and that perception and personal truth versus this personal truth? Even that is just a level of experience, and there is more. There is the great beyond. And that is the mastery of an illumined one. So this means that when you move beyond a position of duality, you will see that it's becoming hard for people to do that because they're still in judgment. So you judge that energy, in a way you start fearing it because you judge what sometimes you fear, because you actually fear of walking in that energy. When you're empowered, you're not afraid to go sometimes in the shadow because you know the light, you have witnessed the light, you have embodied the light. Therefore you have no more fear of, what if when I walk in the shadow I'll become a part of it. You see, so when people are still vulnerable, when they're going through their own integration, they won't always process everything, at the maximum potential. They're maybe going to take in a little fragment of the energy, but not the whole. So that's why sometimes soul has to go through so many cycles in the human experience, because it's hard for them to process everything at once, because there's so much fear is held at the primal level, but we can change that. And there is no other way but activating the Christos essence level. Okay, so again, let's go to the segment. So the first segment is the inner world mastery, where the inner polarities through fragmentation are coming together and unifying. So this is you at the core, this is your emanation, this is your spiral, and it emanates, right, with a specific frequency. Then at the second level, there is the external or the outside influence or the outside fragmentation. So there's difference in reaction if you're already integrated or if you're not. So if you're not an integrated being, you're still functioning within duality template yourself, you come across external energies, the incoming energy, the response will be different. And that's why today I will guide you into an enlightened response towards energetic exchange. But if you're not ready, if you're not at the essence level, please go back to saying, how can I apply this energy into my core through merging the polarities? Because I was asked recently, so why don't we just stay in this high feeling of love if we remember it once? Because people have these, what they call the twin flame experiences, when they feel nothing but pure love, and then they have to go back to their ordinary, what they perceive as ordinary life, because remember, only we place those separations. And they say, well, that's different then, it's not felt as deeply as an intensity. So I want to go back to that relationship because if that is felt, why can't I just stay in this state? Because remember, we are here to bring that light, to bring that feeling of endless, infinite love into that which cannot yet feel that at all times. So we're bringing the bliss factor to that which is not yet in full illumination, and that's why we're doing this work. So sometimes people are using their basic relationships as through their family or perhaps their marital partners, through their intimate partners and the relationship. They're using that to help themselves in a way navigate through the system of how to do this work so they can master this in their own reality, eventually become a master polarity. That's what it's about. So the second stage of the external influence, when you are already integrated, will be different, because at that level you will always recognize the energy and you will ask, what does this energy want? Why is it coming at me? Let me give you one example, right? So you have a relationship, let's say there's two sisters and they're not really in contact much, and the other one is more entrenched in the non-awakened, the matrix system, and the other one is really getting enlightened. She's doing all the mastery work. But all of a sudden, there was not much interaction between them, just the occasional, the typical. But there's the first sister who's perhaps has great challenges in her life because she's not surrendered, and she's created a separation from her source. She's not at the level of witnessing herself as source. She's causing a lot of problems for herself in her life. And before nothing was happening, all of a sudden she starts to comment, or starts to wanting to forcefully interact with the other sister and starting to blame her, and all of a sudden she finds her as the cause for her problems in her life and starts to drain her and want to get her back into drama and the action, right? So I'm going to give you two examples. When your inner world is not yet completely integrated, your response would be, as in most cases with people, is, oh, that sister is unawakened, I'm just gonna ignore it, she's not my responsibility, she's not in my reality, she's not in my world. Okay? And again, remember, both of these personas are right because they both hold their own perception. And there is no wrong perception, because the first one obviously perceives that. And what she describes as the other sister, the sibling, she's actually describing herself, because she's seeing herself. She's not able to own her wounds. to own her separation, so she put all those stamps into her sister because she's too much of a reflection for her, and she can't perhaps find in her life at this time no one else to reflect her so much. And let's say the other sister is already so enlightened that that light starts to kind of draw that pull, that toxic separation, you know, and all the resentment and everything that the first sister is holding within herself. It just keeps pulling it out. Even if they're not physically perhaps so much in contact, the energy and the connection does its own thing, because when one starts to illuminate, it pulls everything to the surface. So on the earth human plane level, we might say not much is happening, but at the level of the essence, you might see a lot is happening. So the second part I want to tell now is the aware experience, where the second sibling is already fully integrated. She will recognize this response, you know, even if she won't associate it with herself, all those, let's say, remarks and nasty comments, and all of a sudden she starts to blur down, or, you know, maybe even say, you know, very bad projecting words towards her. She all of a sudden sees that, well, I don't see that being me. I understand that's her process. But at the same time, she also doesn't judge her. She just push away. That doesn't mean she has to communicate with her, because remember, on many trivial levels we experience day to day, a lot of these people who are so deeply in duality, they're not ready to communicate and to be shared with those things. Sometimes they say, well, that's crazy, I don't want to talk about it, you know, my reality is just this, you know, you are crazy, you know, you are like this, you know, it's like lots of judgment. So the integrated self persona does not necessarily have to come back and react in this personal way. Instead, because of her own inner integration and completion, she realizes that the energy coming through her sister, wanting to be liberated through her, because she's the enlightened one in this life, and she's an ancient one, she's an old soul, the energy is coming to her. Because remember, at the universal level, there is no you, Mia, who's going to do the work. We are all, in a way, participating with life. We are, remember, at the divine level of life level, there is no separation. So the illumined sister would say, okay, I get that. You know, I don't take this personally. When you are still non-integrated, a lot of times we take things personally. You know, and it's a normal part of the human experience. You can't say, I'm not taking this personally, while you still are. It's almost like trying to ignore the level where you are. You know, when you're still doing the inner work of integration, becoming this whole being, functioning at the light quotient where you are capable of not taking things personally, you can't hide those things from you. We all want to think fondly and the best of ourselves, but we have to think in terms of neutrality. It's just for development. We're not bad if we take things personally, you know, or get irritated or agitated when people throw remarks at us. It's about recognizing where we are through compassion. Remember the compassion formula. So towards self first, because that births the compassion for everyone around, for all life. So that means you don't have to lie to yourself and say, I didn't take that personally, while you in their heart goes like, oh, you know, the vibration is different than your mental response, because the mind is programmed, the mind is easily trained. You tell it, don't take things personally, the mind says, okay, but the heart feels things. So the integration, the integrated being is, remember, it is interlocking the informed system through the mind, the brain, and the heart. And the synthesis, this thymus compassion, is born. So this means that at the level, when you are integrated, you don't take things personally, but not because you think you shouldn't, but because you really don't. This was self-birthed for you. You've reached that level where you just have this pure compassion for everyone. And because of that, you are able to see and witness everyone where they are. So what you would do at that level, the illumined sister would see the first one is really deeply wounded, and she would see that perhaps she's hit rock bottom in her life. Maybe she doesn't have anyone around her at this point that she could use to steam off, you know, to kind of use as a mirror. Everyone perhaps abandoned her because she was so self-destructive. I'm taking a very radical example at this time, because in many cases, sometimes this is happening. And, you know, at this point, she feels so abandoned by everyone that in a way she abandons herself. Right? So the second sister sees that when she's in her compassion. She's not detached, which is artificial detachment, which I've heard for so many people. I'm detached, but they have no empathy. They can empathize. Without empathy, you can't eventually reach the higher compassionate state of the higher heart. You can't. because we need to learn as empathic being first to feel and feel through our own perspective. And then on the master level, like I've spoken about in the previous videos, you reach a level where you can feel as everyone does. So you can feel how it is, even when someone tells you, you don't know how it is like, you had it easy all your life. You don't fall for that, because you can, through this higher compassion, trust me, you can feel what they're feeling, because you're seeing it from the universal perspective. And in a way, you're not pretending you know everything for them, but you simply feel. That's not the same. To feel what they're going through is not the same as you know everything in how it's laid out for them. Those are two different things, because the mind truly does not know, but the heart, the higher compassionate heart feels. So in this case, you ask this energy. You don't have to necessarily go to the personal level. If you're guided, okay, you can. But you, in that case, perhaps in a deep meditation, simply feel and visualize that energy. We're going to do that exercise at the end. I'm going to show you. It's really simple. And you just call that energy and you ask it why it's there and what it wants from you, why it is repetitive. Because if something is repetitive and just all of a sudden it's there, you say, well, it has nothing to do with me. You know, I'm at this level. Why is it here? You know, remember the first part about that being your mirror, not necessarily true, but it is your mirror for this volunteering work that you become a part of the spirit sacred team, and that's your assignment. And because of that, it's coming into your life for a reason, and it won't go away until you do the energy work. Let me tell you that it won't go away. So the second thing you can observe is when something keeps coming back without you integrating it, you're eventually going to be very challenged until you do the work. And a lot of people are feeling this. Well, at the third level, when you, through this light activation, through this meditation work, you create a space of allowance. And I've told you in the first part that a lot of people have such a high level of judgment that this energy, it can't move through. So maybe it's a tiny portion of energy comes through, but because they have such a high judgment factor, it can't. So, you know, eventually what you fear, you judge to the highest degree that you can even see it everywhere because it's so strong. And that's why these people who hold the highest amount of judgment are seeing so much reflected to them. And they eventually say, oh, I hate this world. It's so terrible, because they have this, it's like keep pulling it away. They want to pull it away. So it will be so externalized that eventually kind of like folds into themselves until they are ready to do the work and to see with the eyes of neutral truth. Not with, you know, this victim, perpetrator, all of that scenario. So when you are ready to work at the core level, you will allow this energy to move through. And remember, if you're not integrated, don't try. Don't say, oh, I'm so much of this, I can do this work. You have to truly engage first the compassionate heart. And that's where the compassionate formula with the first examples I gave you, do that first for integration. And I've done a lot of videos on integrating polarity, shadow work, all of that. But those of you who already know, when things are coming back and you don't get why they're back because now you're so enlightened, well, they're coming back because you've grown and you're now ready to do higher work on this planetary service level. Remember that. That's why they're back. That doesn't necessarily mean you've retrograded, you're doing something and it's returning. It's returning within a bigger cycle because you're ready to be more, okay? So in this level, the synthesis is created and the perception will be of only one. And that's why, because you see that energy, let's say the energy coming as masked, right, will be an energy of when someone tries to put you down. I don't know the word, but you know when someone puts you down with saying bad things about you, you simply observe that energy and you allow it in until it tells you what it wants from you. And then you process that, and at the core, when the energy tells you and you allow it, that's the hardest part for people to allow it. You know, you can witness it. A lot of people witness things and they say, I'm psychic, I can see this, I can read these energies. Okay, that's witnessing them. Can you process them? That's another story. Processing through synthesis means that you have become a vessel to kind of like absorb this energy, but this energy is not hooked into you because you don't have a fear factor of what if you become this energy now, and that involves divine trust. That trust level, when you come to the essence level work, has to be so complete, because before, as you can see, a lot of people talk about fear of, you know, absorbing other people's energies and all of that, and they will. It means they've absorbed them for a reason, because they're still learning self-mastery, and absorbing them will give them a proper training to see how they're dealing with energy in their physical life and their reality, and how to meet other people through more and more neutrality. Okay? Like I've told you, don't convince yourself you're somewhere, but your experience is telling you otherwise. Be with where you are in the experience, and you'll grow in your mastery in expanded ways you can't even imagine, for real. So the synthesizing experience is like the energy tries to come, and it just wants to be loved. That part, which was so dual, just wants to be loved, nothing else. And that's the Christ at heart. It's complete love. You know, you say, oh, but the energy's like this mask. Ah, it's a boo-boo. I can't love that. It's too ugly. And then when you allow it, because you see, that's when the energy will present itself in its illumined form. And that's when it means you've done the work. And when we did this meditation together in our family with my mother for the first time, and I was guiding her through, it was amazing. You know, she said she never felt more peaceful, because I kind of like I was showcasing for her how this level of work looks like, and she was doing it for the first time, and she said she's never felt more better and really, really so present and so peaceful at this level of work as before in this meditation. So in this, when the energy starts to glow from its core, because you've allowed it to, you were the neutral Christos, the compassionate heart essence energy that will kind of create this interlocking point of what you would call your field, someone else's field, or the other energy's field, and you create a union. You create this blending, and at this level, there's this matching, right? This interlocking, there's a synergy, the point of total balance, and this locked in energy is the gateway of Christ. So the positive thinking only does not really shift the energy at the core level. Remember that. And it's the state of pure allowing that will allow this energy to come, and then it's trusting that it won't taint you, it won't distort you. You're letting it to be what it is. And we can only do that in meditation. We can observe it, we can acknowledge it, but going into meditation and working at the energy level, so that eventually it comes down to the essence, we really work as masters. And you have to, in a way, be assigned through initiation that you're able to do that, and your soul will show you. But that's a good thing here, that you can't overwhelm yourself by doing this exercise. Why? Because as much as you're expanded, as much as you can allow, that much will flow through you. Again, remember, you won't get more than you can translate through your body. So the embodied master always works through the body. It's not a master of the mind. The experience that we're living in, it doesn't happen through our mind. You can say the source, its creative intelligence is all pure divine logic. It's pure divine intelligence. So it's all the mind. Well, no, because our bodies are here. We're not computers. We are organic beings. Therefore, this is not the only component of source living, of source existence. So in this state, you have to know that even if you're not perhaps fully there, you will see how much work you can do. And that work will help to expand your own inner polarity shift. So it's kind of like what you do in this integration comes back to you. So it increases your own potential, your own integrated state. And with that, you become more magnetic. And when you're more magnetic, what does it mean? It means you're more abundant. And abundance, again, is not related only to money. Abundance also doesn't relate to being only abundant in the positive experience. You might have an abundance of very challenging energies, but if you're a part of the team, it's a sacred assignment of doing this sacred crystals work, it means you have an abundance of incoming energies that want to use you as a tool of self-liberation, so that these energies can unhook themselves from eons and eons of time of perceiving themselves at the level of duality and separation from their core. So just like we would say, well, we had an experience of being separate from our source. When you go to the energetic level, we created energies that started to interact with our world, because we are creator beings, and we've created many energies that we now call negative ones, or dark ones, or heavy ones, or dense ones, that now when we're going and we're moving into this higher consciousness state, we need to learn to love, so that they will reveal a greater, higher core component, which will, be as a part of our co-creation in this new world. right? There is no other thing, because that's all that we've created. We have to own and we have to claim responsibility for. So when you say, well, why am I then doing this work for someone else? It's their energy, and I'm here helping them to, to kind of release that. You're not helping them. Remember, perhaps I've given you this example with the two sisters, the two siblings, one completely in the shadow, one completely enlightened and illumined, perhaps even. But remember, when that work is done at the essence level, that doesn't mean this individual will shift personally. It's because you're not doing the work on the personal level, but you are using a transpersonal level that comes to a person, perhaps because as humans, that's how we experience. You can't take something when it's not tangible. There's very few beings on this planet who function only at the essence level. They only do that with the energies without actual physical things coming at them, right? But the majority of people need that because it shows them what needs to transcend and move to the next octave of being. So that's why the relating experiences are so important now, and it's important for us to embrace them, not kind of like put them aside. At this level, it's not about, oh, that's synchronic with me, oh, that's in resonance with me, oh, that is a match to me. If you're finding a partner, oh, that's not a match. This is the essence level, is beyond match. This is where everything is your match, but perhaps it's just cloaked with a little more mask of duality. And it comes to you because you are saving grace, or I don't know how to call it, but literally you are the merciful tool of assistance of how to overlight this energy that was so overshadowed for so long. So you're using yourself, your integration, for higher service, because remember, I've told you in the beginning, self-mastery is not the end of ascension, of cosmic union. It's not where your road ends, okay? So it has to have a higher purpose to it, and this is this Christed divine love level. When you see that this energy simply wants to be liberated, that's why it keeps coming back. And when you are able to see it as that, and you have compassion, you hold it also for the personal level experience, which in this case was, the first person was very self-destructive, right? But that doesn't mean because you've done the essence work, the person will shift right away, but you will feel the energy shift. Because when you're operating at the essence level, you are also feeling and processing at the essence level, which means you're going to feel when there's a shift back into the essence level, when that particle of energy was liberated through that meditation activation. So by feeling the feeling first, right, instead of saying, no, I'm just going to think positive, I'm not going to allow myself to feel anything, total kind of like ignorance of the human factor, of the human heart and the feeling, then that will lead you to the next steps, the next level of integration, which will be, first you feel. Sometimes then people kind of like, sometimes your response, even if you're working at the essence level, the initial response first might be, oh, what's that person thinking? Or what is this doing in my life? This has nothing to do with me. But then move beyond it, because you're bigger than that. The Christos for the neutralizing through the essence level is the overseeing element, that even if your human gets set up for a while, and remember, that's the human factor, and it is a part of our ascension. That's just the surface level, and you're playing that out. But the more illumined you are, that's going to take place perhaps for a few seconds, and then you're going to be like, oh yeah, of course, that's why I'm here for. That's why this energy is here. Perhaps if you're like me, you're going to take a walk or go for a run, and everything will fall into place. And then you sit down, you do the integration work, you do the meditation, and you help at a very much bigger level than you can possibly imagine. It won't always be shown to you in the physical, but the rewards of this are at the higher level. And this higher level doesn't have physicality as we imagine it, but it's a gradual processing. So maybe the reward is not instant, but there will be a reward. Maybe you see an example of someone who's had also challenges, but maybe they're the one, because they were ready, they were at the right threshold, that they needed this push. So even if you were working with your family, or an individual in your family, or someone that's closer to you in relating, experience, perhaps, a few times down the line later, sometime later down the line, you meet someone, you hear about something that it carried a particular similar essence, but it was liberated. But because you held that within that relating experience, that influenced that other experience, because that's the holographic idea, which is we are fractals, and what one fractal experiences is fractalized, or it's universalized within the whole. So I hope this helped you. And remember, compassion is born out of integration. So this integrated being becomes a pure magnetic. And that's why a lot of volunteer souls, we won't always get just the positives. We're going to get even the challengers, sometimes even very, very heavy energies. It's not because this is what we carry in our heart. No, it's because our heart is a doorway, is a gateway through which these energies can be liberated back into unity. And it's a process. So I hope this helped you. Again, let us move through the very simple exercise, okay? And then we're going to wrap it up for today. So what you do is you simply sit down and get yourself in your sacred, comfortable space. Remember that when you reach a certain level of mastery, of refinement, of being aware and really deeply present in your body, that also will need to be safeguarded, which means it's not perhaps going to be at the level of being shared with everyone, just putting it out there. Sometimes it's just between you and what you can experience in your own inner world. And it won't always be something you can just share and give it out. If you are still at the level where you can't hold the responsibility of this reverence and sacredness, it won't be handed into you, because it's almost like, you know, something that's so sacred, you can't just then put it out and you advertise it because you want to brag about it. It's not about that. So in that case, it means when you are ready, that's when you will receive this dowry, because you know how to not just become the inner master, but you know how to carry it. You know how to safeguard it. You know how to protect this state, and you know how to work at the essence level. That's why it is given upon you, because you were entrusted through spirit to walk the sacred path. So the activation is very simple. I've explained a little bit already. So you simply sit down, you breathe until you feel really relaxed. And you don't even have to imagine the physical person that perhaps you had an experience that got you to work on the level of working with the energy revealing itself. What you do is you simply call your higher presence, you call your illumined state, you sit in your column of white light, you sit in your ascension pillar. And what you do next is, from this core foundation, which is you, the integrated you, the whole of you, you can also imagine yourself surrounded with white light. You call that energy and you say, I call this energy that wants to come into my field right now, wants to come to me for assistance. You call it out. Then ask, energy, please reveal yourself, show yourself to me. Show me what you want from me. Follow that line. And then for a while, just stay with feelings, the impressions, and maybe something that the energy will tell you. Perhaps you will still see the visual of the other person that you had this experience with. Perhaps not. Perhaps you're just going to see it like a ball of light, or just a feeling level. And you're just going to feel something wants to be communicated to you. And perhaps the energy would say, I just really want to be freed. Please help me. But you, again, remember, you are the vessel for this embodiment process. Now you start feeling that through your sacred Christed heart, you completely start to have absolute understanding for this energy. You have no judgment. You only see the higher perspective. And if you're not ready, go back into the chamber of your sacred heart. Call out your heart, call out your mind, and feel the thymus. And activate the compassion first. If you are too responsive, too reactive towards that energy, if you still feel a little agitated, you will feel that sometimes you start shaking, you're nervous when a certain energy approaches you, and that's okay. And then go back to the self. Remember, go back to your inner cycle. When you're ready, say, okay, come again, please. I'm ready now. I invite the energy in. Then feel that heart of compassion. Feel that Christos logos. And feel that neutralizing balance point, which is no more, the judgment. It's just like a neutralize, like the justice card in tarot. There's absolute state of complete allowance. And perhaps that energy for the first time was seen as it was. It wasn't seen as a mask, like, oh, you actually want this from me. No, I want, and I feel this. And the energy might say, I'm in complete rage. And you, being a light worker, through being only positive, you say, you're not rage. Oh, please, please change. No, you don't. At this level, you don't try to change anything. You are in radical acceptance. And that's why you help to hold the space for this energy. Because when the energy is going to finally allow itself to express this rage, because remember, so many people don't express it, they harbor it. You know, they have piles and piles of this harboring, and you simply allow the space for that to be what it is. And when it does, you will feel it's almost like you're swallowing it up. And in your sacred heart, there's going to be this compassionate understanding for this born through you, which is for you and for all. There's no more division, no more separation. And in this experience, you can invoke, or it will happen automatically, say, energy, reveal itself as you are, or I help you to reveal yourself as you truly are, or what you truly are. And allow that guidance to come to you. And it might be a total surprise, because when you see the illumined version of that, it's like, wow, you know, imagine if when we personalize energies, we use it to have a better, you know, it's like a visual, because sometimes people are not yet capable of feeling a pure essence level. That's why they use personalities, you know, and that's why people have so much drama, because they feel they require that, because the actual visual, you know, it's like a rage, you know, see someone's like, you know, their face literally shows that expression of rage. But in many cases, we get scared of that energy. So we always kind of keep it in duality with that fear. We want it to go away from us, or, you know, we want it to stop existing in many cases. But that doesn't change the fact that it's there, that it wants to be expressed, so that it can realize in its lower expression, so that eventually it will be birthed in its highest expression, instead of being seen as this versus that, you know, rage versus, I don't know, compassion. So what you're doing now, you're just witnessing, and you're feeling that golden light just starts to illuminate. And you feel how everything just starts to naturally move in its higher essence. And you're not affected. You are, because you're a pure vessel. You only get affected when you still place hooks through entanglement, through codependency, attachment, and judgment. So just observe it. Just observe it. The first point is observation. Then it's like processing it, and then it's the integration. So the third step is this union, is you and this essence are one, because that essence is a part of creation, and you are birthed through all the creation essences. And you claim back your creator power to what we have many times miscreated. It was misguided. It was in its state of the fall. You bring back into the state of illumination. And so it is. So simple, in fact, but so few people do that. They keep repeating the stories and things and people and events coming back, just, you know, changing a little bit of shape and form. But it's like the energy's there. In most cases, like I said, it's gradually expressing and releasing itself, because, you know, people are not capable of holding such a high amount of light. But when you are going to have a great assignment. It's like, ooh, this whole pile is there. Yes, but because you're ready, you can do that. So thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful, because it was a continuation of the first one, of really integrating our family, our inner union of the family principle through archetypes. And this is more practical work of this cosmic compassion mastery. So if you have any questions, you know where to find me. I have personal sessions and soul attunements as offerings, as well as a part of my service, for those of you who want to work more personally with me on this journey of your own soul recognition and mastery. And if you want to be a part of helping to support these videos, because I always tell you, it takes quite a time, not just to record, but the whole preparation, and then the you know, the editing and the integration of it takes a lot of, you know, time, and of course the channeling of it all and bringing it forth. You can become my Patreon on my Patreon page, or just go to my donation page if you're ever called. It's really helpful, because it helps me to feel the kind of energetic reciprocity of appreciation that, you know, is extended between all of us as a part of one team who is here to do that. And we're all doing the work from our own different angles. And I do the essence level work, because that's how you function when you are an illumined one. So you don't take or see things personally anymore, but it's the level you've embodied. And if you want to embody your own mastery, there are self-mastery courses that take you through these stages and steps of what it requires for us to become, you know, an illumined being in form, in physical, spirit-born form. So thank you for watching. As always, I'm going to talk to you again within a new topic when it reveals itself to you, to me, to all of us. And I hope to do very soon, once, perhaps in December, another one of the Facebook Live videos too. So there's also audiobooks currently available, and they have beautiful creation messages at the deepest level of the core of the things that are happening at the foundation level of creation. So if you're interested and want to go deeper as well, because so much is yet to be revealed. And I'm now working on this, like I said, the last 12th level universal consciousness cosmic union and ascension mastery course. So until then, I'm going to talk to you soon. Take care and lots of love. Bye bye.